Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're getting connecting from. This is Marco Marinucci from Silicon Valley, and today we have a special version of Amanda Chat with the Mind the Unicorn and Loris Degioanni.
Hey, Marco.
Hey, what's up? Busy day?
Busy day as usual. Busy week.
Yeah, it sounds like a busy week. So today, this is the reason to celebrate because we are discussing and chatting over your new status as a startupper, as a founder of a startup, joining the club, the most prestigious club for founders, that is the Club of Unicorns. And so that's what we're going to talk about of your recent raise of 188 million of Series F with a post-money valuation that passed the $1 billion mark.
So I'm celebrating with a nice glass of water.
There you go. So that's
you're way more serious than me.
So there are a few disclaimers here. So let me start saying that there are very few beliefs in my life. One is that you never have to miss an opportunity to celebrate, and that's definitely
And get drunk.
That's definitely sometimes, and that's definitely one. So celebration with you. The second belief of my life is that don't take myself and others too seriously. So while the topic of the conversation will be pretty serious at times, might go over a few areas that might be a little bit of the embarrassment side. So I hope that you agree with the rules of the games, also because they already started. Disclaimers. There are a few disclaimers here. One is actually I'm just landing from a long trip in Asia, so for me I'm technically at 5 in the morning or something rather. Yes, that's the best one. I should use that one in the future.
Exactly. I didn't know you took a picture of that.
That was 2 years ago even. So it was in times where the unicorn status was something to play with.
You are foreseeing the future.
I was foreseeing the future, and the future happened to turn it the way we wanted. So the disclaimers are: one is that my abilities and intellectual abilities are even more challenged considering my time zone. And the second one, I'm also a happy early backer of Sysdig with our MTS fund. So I will try to make you and Sysdig look as good as possible in case that there is any doubts in between. Okay.
Look, by the way, I'm sporting the Mind the Bridge T-shirt. The job creator T-shirt. So I am a proud member of your portfolio, even using your T-shirts.
Oh, yeah. Keep that, because I want one of those with your signatures. Now we can actually make some real money. Speaking of investments,
selling T-shirts.
Obviously, selling T-shirts. Those are the very scalable businesses that we should consider. Let me just start saying, we'll have a good amount of time to go back in the past. But speaking of disclaimers, I've known you for probably a lost count, probably good 15 years and counting. But I just want to recap an episode that was probably the first time that we had a semi-serious conversation. I think it was around 2008. You were in the midst of your activities with Case Technology, and we met somewhere down south. And I remember, you explaining what you were doing, and the fact that you were super focused on the product. And I told you, you could have done things differently. You could have maybe even raised some money. And you look at me like something that you hadn't considered, and say, yeah, probably. I didn't know any better. But and now we're talking about you.
I don't know any better. That's for sure.
And now we're talking to you. You raised almost $400 million in this current venture. So I think you took the advice pretty seriously. So with that, I want to address.
You cannot say I don't listen to you, Marco.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's hopefully you're one of the few ones actually. So again, I need to keep you as close as possible. I have a few chapters in our conversations. A few are some are serious, some are more on getting to know you and try to embarrass you as little as possible. But let's start from present.
I was hoping that embarrassing one were gone after showing those pictures?
No. That was just setting a stage. Let's talk about the very last thing. So let's talk about yesterday and the present. So Sysdig, the event that happened, I think is definitely a stepstone in people's, in economies, in way of tracking the growth of companies. But tell us in a few words. Don't be too geeky. But what the heck is Sysdig?
Sysdig is a company that helps organizations that are moving to the cloud, that are doing digital transformation, especially when they are adopting modern software paradigms. And when doing that, typically you need a framework of tools that allow you to do it in a secure way, in a way that is safe, in a way that is high performance. And Sysdig sells enterprises around the world tools to do DevOps, so new ways of doing software in a way that is secure and they can confidently run it in the cloud.
Awesome.
Is it too geeky?
It was some DevOps stuff, but no, I think we got a point. I think actually I want to talk about really also the definition of container, because that's where really talking about the paradigm that you were mentioning. I think the keyword that you associate with as a leadership in the market is in the management of container. And maybe just say in a couple of words, what are containers, the technology of containers? Why is that different from the past paradigm of developing software?
Yeah, when we use the term container here, we are not talking about physical containers. We are not talking about Tupperware. We're not talking about shipping containers. We're talking about software containers. Containers are a way of packaging your software that is designed essentially for modern cloud computing applications. This is a software framework that has been invented and launched around 5 to 10 years ago, 2013, 2014. Around the time, by the way, when I started Sysdig. And it's a way that is extremely powerful, because essentially the power of containers is that you can decompose a piece of software, application, into smaller pieces that you can manage independently. And this is extremely important, especially when your software grows, when you're running it in different places, in your data center, in the cloud, in multiple locations. This ability to decompose your software and run it in a consistent way in different places becomes extremely important. And for this reason, is becoming essentially the cornerstone, the foundation that people use to run software in the cloud. At the same time, containers create a completely new way of writing, deploying, and running software. And this is where companies like mine come into play, because since this is a complete tectonic shift in the way software is conceived, that also means that the components to support the software, like security, like performance, like monitoring and visibility, and so on, need to be reinvented for this new world. So what we did with Sysdig is we intercepted this new phenomenon very, very early on, essentially around the time when it was invented. We latched into this, but we tried to understand essentially what people would need by looking at the previous generation of software and sort of apply it in a way that would be as powerful as possible to the next generation that is based on containers.
Got it. And I think technically, I might be wrong, but I think the whole concept of containers it's been around for quite some time, right? Interoperability. I think Linux was based on the ideas of containers in general, but the modern technology started when you started Sysdig. It actually was called Dryos at the time, if I remember correctly. You were not really talking about containers. You're talking about cloud technology in general. So was about time. Yeah.
So so in software, like in anything else in the world, nothing gets invented, right? It's always something that is sort of evolved or has been done before. And so the idea of containerization, the idea of isolating components of software and orchestrating them has been there for quite a long time. But there was actually a company called Docker that sort of launched this way of doing software containerization around 2013. And then there's a project from Google and others now, an open source project called Kubernetes, which is essentially sort of an operating system for containers that is now essentially adopted by many, many enterprises in the world. So the concept has existed, but in its current shape and form, it's been introduced around 2013, 2014, 2015, and then now there's a whole industry, essentially an exploding industry that is based on this latest generation of containerized software.
I think enough of geeky stuff. No, maybe just one more on the application side, also to understand who are your typical clients, and just give us a quick example. Let's say a bank or financial institutions. How are they using Sysdig? Just give an example how they restructure some of their software development platform.
Yeah, so what's happening is most of these big organizations. So first of all, there's this saying by Andreessen, which is software is eating the world. So that's the premise, everything is becoming software, and COVID is accelerating it. So everybody, even people that in their life they've not been exposed to technology too much during the last year, had a way to really witness what software is eating the world really means. We are all digital now, even if we don't want to. We do school from our computer. We do work from our computer. We do entertainment from our computer. We do basic stuff like
we do celebrations over a computer.
Yeah, exactly. But that's true, especially during COVID times. You get together with your friends on your computer. I could see my family only on my computer, right? So that means that all of these industries and companies that are providing services to you, any kind of services, need to heavily migrate to software. At this point, this means that in a world like this, software becomes an element of primary competition. The quality of your software, which means the quality of your services, your websites, your applications, your phone apps, and so on, is a primary element of competition. It's also the primary way you talk to your users and your customers. As a consequence, it's also a key area of investment and innovation. In particular, in the last 10 years, the main mega trend in software has been moving to the cloud, right? So all of these companies used to have these data centers that they were building, renting a huge building, screwdrivers, big internet connection, a lot of power, redundancy, all of this kind of stuff, to have all of your computers that would contain your data, would contain the logic behind your applications, and so on. This is all moving to a paradigm that is based on cloud, that is based on public utility consumption. So instead of you having your own software computing building, what you do is you go to a big company. Typically, the market leader here is Amazon, but there are other companies like Microsoft, like IBM, like Google, and so on, where you go and you just rent computers to deploy your software. So this creates a huge shift in the way you do stuff. And when you do this kind of stuff, essentially, stuff like security becomes extremely important, because your data, you're giving it essentially to somebody else because you're renting machines from somebody else. Access, all of your developers need access to essentially to the cloud to modify stuff and run the software that you've written. So somebody could lose their password, and then all of your data, which is in the cloud, could be lost and could go in the hands of somebody. So what the companies like mine do is they make sure that the software that these companies are writing and are moving to the cloud is protected from the moment they start writing it, because we essentially look inside the code and the application, and we're able to detect if something is insecure or wrong, or could be leveraged by hackers or stuff like that. And then when you run the software, of course, it's important to protect the perimeter. It's important to detect what the application is doing and see if it's doing something anomalous. And then when something bad happens, it's very important to understand what was it, what data was stolen. Did I lose credit cards? Did I have somebody doing, like Bitcoin mining with my servers or this kind of stuff? So Sysdig is able to help an enterprise to do all of this kind of protection in the software, with particular respect to this transition to the cloud and to the fact that they are now using servers that are borrowed, rented from somebody else, like a utility.
Got it. Remind me, the next time we need to do a little training on a pitch deck, on the quick one. No, I know you can go forever, because that's definitely your passion, and but I think
that's what I do.
That's definitely the a macro trend that is happening, and you're definitely taking advantage of this huge movement into the cloud and digitization. So in 10 seconds, give me a little bit of the kind of history of Sysdig, the major highlights, when it started, and whatever you think is fundamental in describing the growth that you guys are experiencing.
Pitch deck. So Sysdig was started, I incorporated the company in 2013. We are a company that is heavily based on open source, so we released our initial intellectual property as open source in 2014. That's also when we raised our first round of financing, and we started hiring some employees. In 2015, we launched our first commercial product, Sysdig Monitor, for monitoring visibility. 2017, we launched our security product, Sysdig Secure. In I think 2020, the company crossed the 300 people mark, and recently in 2021, we launched our offer for cloud security, and 2 days ago we did a round of financing that values us as so-called unicorns.
A Series F. So you raised in total almost $400 million, if I'm correct. So especially for people that are not local, that think this is normal, tell us why do you need so much money, so much capital? Why is there so much capital in that kind of market these days?
So first, you asked me these questions that require really complex answers, and then you tell me that I need to be faster. It's actually, there are many dynamics that come into play into the amount of money that you raise as a company. There's the phase, there's the life cycle, there's the industry that you play within, and the capital intensity of that industry. There's the competition. In particular, recently, I think that one of the big dynamics for Sysdig is, number one, the market where we're operating is very hot. In a general way, the mega trend of that I was describing before of cloud computing is extremely powerful and extremely revolutionary in software, which means that the opportunity is very big.
So it becomes a race at the end of the day. Who gets there first?
Which means that a lot of investors want to play in this race, and at an accelerated pace. This is compounded by the fact that money is freeing very freely and very easily in the economy especially recently because of all of the capital injection that has been done by all of the central banks of all of the governments to sustain the economies for the pandemic, which means that all of the investors are very well capitalized to essentially bet on good opportunities, and there's not an infinite amount of good opportunities. The result of this is capital is really becoming a tool for success. Really at this point here in Silicon Valley, especially in fields like the one where Sysdig operates, enterprise software. There are assets that essentially you have as a company. There's your people, there's your intellectual property, and capital has to be considered an asset that you need to compare to your competitors. And if, like us, you have ambitions to become the market leader of a segment, essentially capital gives you your opportunity to go for that. Without capital and without enough capital that allows you to be at the same level or better of your competitors, you lose that opportunity, which is a shame if you spend a lot of time identifying a growing market and operating and creating intellectual property in that market. So at that point, Sysdig is in growth phase, and we need to fuel this growth, and we need to do it in a way that ensures that we have an opportunity to become leaders in our market.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about some of the details of how you got there, in particular, also being backed by premium investors in the world, I have to say. But maybe a note: what are your development plans, right, in terms of what you expect to happen next?
So, if the question is how are we going to spend this money?
Probably, yeah. That would be a good way to start.
You see, I can. Let's say, general answer is a little bit of everything, of course. It's a big organization. We need to invest in research and development. We need to invest in marketing, sales, and so on. But for sure, in this phase, typically what you do is you focus on go-to-market. So you focus on aggressively expanding the sales team. You focus on, hiring salespeople in the different countries of the world, expansions in Europe, in Asia, in South America, and so on. And you focus essentially on marketing to make sure that brand-wise, your company becomes like a premium recognized brand in the space.
Yeah, and obviously, the expected result there is, to grow even faster and potentially go public. If that's the one of the expected outcome. Again,
let's call it ambition more than expected outcome, because
remember that I said at the beginning that I have a vested interest in where this goes. So
exactly. But of course, going public is the dream. Going public for in a general way, the stock market for somebody like me that starts this in their backyard is what you dream your life. Sometimes I compare it to racing Champions League, if you're in soccer, or an Olympic gold, in other sports. But exactly like in sports, it's a goal that is very, very hard to accomplish and requires a lot of work. And valuations don't really mean anything from this point of view. What counts is metrics of your company and how hard you're working and how talented you are in growing your business, essentially.
Yeah. But honestly, you are on that route. I'm not saying that it's tomorrow, but all the steps that we're putting forward is definitely in the route of growing as big and as fast as possible. All right.
Let's put it this way: we wouldn't be raising this amount of capital if there were not those kind of ambitions.
Exactly. Good. I want to start now the chapter called How You Got There. And so, stepping back and go a little bit more onto your roots. And I would say, starting from literally your roots. So you come from a little village in the Alps of Italy, Vinadio. So I want to talk a little bit about that, a little bit about, really what shaped you from what you are today, from your roots. Maybe actually we have some images here. I just want to get a sense of where is Vinadio, also to get a sense for people that are, and including the locals that might not know, the little village of Vinadio that is, probably close to, actually very close to the border of France, and in the Alps between France and Italy. And
you should zoom out and show how far it is from the Bay Area.
Yeah, I know exactly. But I don't know if you can do that. But tell us about Vinadio. Maybe here we have a few pictures while you're talking, just to give a sense of where you're from.
Vinadio is a little town, few hundred people, which sits as shown in the map on the border between northern Italy and southern France, not far from Torino in northern Italy, not far from Nice in southern France. Pictures show it pretty well. Little town. This picture is actually taken from the square where I grew up, where my parents still live, and where my mom had their little store for her whole life, essentially. So this is the view that I had every morning when I was going to elementary school, when I was a kid. And it's, the Italian small mountain town. And this is the view that I had pretty much every single weekend for all my childhood and teenagerhood when I was going ski mountaineering with my dad. This picture, actually, my dad took it last time I had the privilege to ski in Italy before pandemic, in January of 2020.
Let me just say that one of the common passions that brought us together is the passion for mountaineering. And mine is totally random, having grown up by the sea on a beach. Yours is very consequential, as we.
Mine was out of necessity.
How to go and get some bread to survive, right? And you go with your skis to school. So you're definitely a product, I think, of that culture that knowing you well definitely shaped you in every day of your life, even today, the way that you approach also work.
I am proud is the right word. And the fact that I've been shaped by that is the right way of putting it. For sure, I would not be here without what growing in a place like that gave me as a person, because in the end, success in business always come from a million things, and one is school and your technical skills and your ability to write code, but in practice the majority is how you are shaped as a person, and I was shaped as a person in Vinadio and in Valestura. Yes.
Clearly so. And then you landed in US. Again, that was, I don't know how planned that was, but maybe tell us a little bit of what took you to Davis.
The plan was I come to the United States as a PhD visitor student di dottorato. I was invited here because I had written some very popular open source software while I was a PhD student at Politecnico di Torino. And a professor that sounded cool invited me to do some research here with him, in particular around this open source software that I had written. And my plan was come check out California. Everybody was telling me California is pretty cool, so let's go. I was in the phase of my life where wherever I was invited to travel, I was really happy to travel. I was just coming back from 6 months in New Zealand. Where I worked there essentially in a company there. So I was very glad to be invited in California and go back after 6 months. I had a 6 months visa. I ended up on the professional life to start the company with this professor, John Bruno.
And one of your advisors for your research. Correct?
Absolutely. He's the guy that invited me to do research with him at UC Davis. And on the personal life, meeting this girl, Stacy, who I'm married to, and we have 3 kids with now. So let's say these 2 things compounded convinced me to stay in California a little bit longer, and a little bit longer is now what? That was 2004, so 17 years. So a good chunk of my life.
A good chunk of your life and counting. But then with the professor, you started a company that we alluded to, Case Technology at the time. And that's when we met. And again, you alluded to the fact it was a big piece of very, very, very famous software that was released at the time, and then the company essentially got acquired. Again, I don't think that was your plan. It's something that happened among the serendipity that was.
And I mean, first of all, I learned to be an entrepreneur after starting that company, while running it. So also, we started a very traditional company, no VC growth, organic growth, and we reached the point in which our software was popular, and we started having many acquisition proposals, and we ended up being acquired in 2010, 5 years later, by a company called Riverbed, and that's when I discovered it was something relatively unique, especially, let's say, in the Italian landscape. So the fact that somebody just leaves from Italy as a student, travels to California, creates a company there, grows it, brings it to multi-million-dollar revenues, and then sells it in 5 years. That apparently people told me was pretty unique and generated quite a bit of buzz, which I was glad to, because it also acted a little bit like a reference, for and as an example for especially for young people in Italy.
Yeah, and I want to really, I didn't tell you what we had in the background, but we have a little video. So that was an event where that was so unique, honestly, especially in the time of the development of the ecosystem of startups in Italy had started. And meanwhile, Mind the Bridge a few years prior, we really wanted to, was and it still is very important to show success stories. And so you were one of the keynotes in the event that we used to host Corriere della Sera. So we have a little contribution here, a very quick interview, and you'll see how younger we were.
Our hair was not gray yet.
Yeah, sure. We can go with it.
You want to know what happened with my company? I actually just sold my company. Today is the 6th of November, so I sold my company exactly 2 weeks ago. So I ran my company for 5 years, starting in 2005, and I grew it to around 30 employees, and now at the end of October, I've been acquired by a computer networking company in the Silicon Valley called Riverbed.
So you're screwing up all we've been saying for 3 or 4 years today, right? So write a business plan, go and find the right partners, building from the bottom up, and go and try to, find a potential exit. Nothing of that worked. What happened?
No, actually, what I want to say to the people that are listening to this interview is, you should be thankful for something like Mind the Bridge. You should be thankful to Marco, Alberto, and everybody else that is doing this kind of stuff, because I screwed up from this point of view just because I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't have anybody that could teach me what I was doing. So my company actually started with consultancy at the beginning, with our personal seed money and with consultancy, because we didn't even think that we could get VC, and we didn't know where to go to get VC. So before we were able to work on our products, it was 2 years of consultancy, during which we saved money, and from that we actually built our company. So consultancy was our VC, which from one point of view is good because you learn how to build a company before actually having your product. From the other point of view, we should have closed this deal in 2 years less. So I worked 2 years of my life too much compared to meeting you right away.
So I know that you cannot mention dollars, but I mean, just give us a sense. Is that enough to buy an apartment in Milan, a building in New York, or a village somewhere else?
Let's not brag about money. Let's say it's it's enough that I don't have to think about money anymore in my life. Let's say.
That's a great message. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, right.
So now the question is, who aged better or worse?
Yeah, we need another session for that. We need another session. You aged pretty well, because after
we
that,
need the audience judge.
yeah, exactly. After that, you took a good amount of time off. Remember, it's also even your curriculum, because you became a skier in residence for quite some time, right? So I want to
It's
go
funny how
from
many people still reference to that when they go to my LinkedIn, to
know.
that part of my CV.
Because that becomes as important as being able to build a unicorn. Is, I think, the pauses, honestly, between experiences in life are very important, because that's where we kind of get into a perspective as well. And so obviously that pause, gave you interesting input. I remember you already starting, building something while you were there. You started, just fast forward real quick. You were, now with an experience that went from, start to finish. You definitely have the tools and the toolkit to start something with, I think, with probably different ambitions or different tools. How important was to find the right investors at the beginning?
Oh,
And actually, I mean, I'm not mentioning the angels, but more like the structured VCs that are still, for the most part, the ones that are backing you all the way to where you are today.
fundamental importance, and yes, the same people, the same investors that were there with us at a seed round actually, are still here supporting us and working with us. Money, of course, we were discussing this before, gives you capital, right? And capital is fuel for a company, and of course that's of primary importance. We wouldn't be here, at least at this size, without it. But especially good investors bring so much more than that. Bring network, bring recruiting, bring advice. With Sysdig, we started immediately from the get-go with much bigger ambitions. So I still had holes in my experience in many sides of running a company, growing it at different stages and so on. And a lot of what I learned, especially in those early 2 or 3 years, I learned it from just these investors sitting together with me and coaching me and helping me with this. The network is and the brand is another thing that is very important as well.
And I think there's another moment, I think, during the development that I think identifies you as a person, as a professional, where ego is definitely not the reason why we're doing this. It's obvious. And you decided at a certain moment of development that you didn't have the tools to be the CEO that needed to bring the company to the next phase. And so you decided to go in the market and hire a CEO while being still the founder of the company.
Yeah, it's funny. Ego is, I find that ego is predominant when you're not in trouble, when it's easy, It's like in sports or going to the mountains, you have a lot of ego when you're sitting on your couch. But when you're in the middle of a mountain wall during a storm, there's not a lot of ego. There's just, okay, let's do what it takes, to go back home. Because I want to go
survival mode.
I want to go back to my couch. I want to survive, and it's the same, at a certain point, having a company is a big struggle. It's also there are many moments in which it's pretty clear, what your limits are. and it's very sombering, in terms of making you realize your strengths and really giving you confidence, but also realize your weaknesses and what you like in life. When you're in the middle of the storm in the mountain, that's when you're like, oh my God, my couch is really great. I really love being there. Or just my kids. So priorities in life. So for me, it was a pretty natural, and I was very lucky with the process, by the way. But I realized essentially there's a lot of specialization in everything, in the world right now, and doing companies is the same. And I specialize in nothing to 100 people, let's say, in nothing from $10 million of revenues. That's what I do well. I am more like creative, technology-wise. I'm a generalist that can do a little bit of marketing, can do a little bit of product management, can do sales. I can, of course, do engineering. I'm an engineer by training. My network is in early stage, right? At a certain point, when the company reached 100 people, it was clear that I was the bottleneck of the company, that I was reaching my limits, that somebody with the real passion to grow a company at the stage would have done it better than me. So it was very natural to go to our board of directors and tell them, look, I'm still very committed to this adventure, but I need a partner, and I need the right partner. And that happened after sort of 3 years after starting Sysdig. And fortunately, in Suresh, I found a phenomenal partner that really complements me very well, and I could not be happier about the choice.
Excellent. Has it been a smooth ride? Because from the outside, right? So you've always been going up and to the right, right? Both as a business, as a raising, and from the outside, it looks like it's been a smooth ride. Have you ever had any hard times, or maybe you can mention some of the hardest time in this process from the beginning?
No, never. All easy.
Up and to the
right. People don't realize. Startups are typically described like riding the waves, right? Up and down, up and down. What people say is like, one day is great, the following day is bad, and you do this. That's not true. Right? Doing startups is like going in a cliff. It's like hard every day. I mean, I'm sure, super successful companies, when seen from the inside, you always see the problems, and it's always hard, and there's always something to solve. The same week when we announced the unicorn status and raising $188 million is the last week of the quarter. And as any quarter, especially in enterprise, the last week of the quarter is when you close all of your deals, essentially. So 80%, not 80, but the majority of your revenues for the quarter come the last week of the quarter. So you're there on Monday biting your fingers, and it's like, oh my God, we just raised money. What is going to happen this quarter? So it's always the same. It's always problems. It's always a crisis. There's always something. There's always a talented employees that leaves you. There's always a deal that you thought you would close and you're not closing it. There's a deliverable that is late and you need to fix it. And the moments of joy and celebration are like 1%.
Yeah, but those are the ones that kept you going, right? Especially if things are eventually long-term going.
I mean, I think that the main feature of an entrepreneur, especially a startup entrepreneur, and by startup here is more like very small organizations that grow very fast, you really need to be able to see the silver lining, and you really need to like this ride. It's like, sorry, go back to sport, but 90% of the people probably think that ski mountaineering is just pain, because you need to just get very tired, going up the mountain. But some people really enjoy getting tired doing sport and find it beautiful, and they just crave, going out and getting tired in unfriendly environments. And you need to have that attitude, I keep doing the comparison because there's many similarities, and similarly, it's like I was talking to my chief revenue officer Sysdig yesterday, saying exactly that I wouldn't change my job for anything else. I mean, I'm truly happy doing this, with a great team, forming lifelong friends during this adventure, and just never being bored, never being relaxed, always having something to do, always having a problem to solve, always having something different to do in your life. It's the kind of life that I would never replace with anything else.
Do you think you have changed professionally and also personally in these last 15 years? And then, I've got my view to that, but do you think, looking back, obviously you have improved, you have increased, your vision of options is much wider, but you think you have changed dramatically, professionally and personally, also going through these steps of success?
Very, very much. I think one of the things, I think I'm a privileged person for many, many reasons. One of these reasons, and one of the ones that is really among the most mind-blowing to me, is throughout my whole life, I could always find mentors to really teach me a lot and shape me very deeply. You're one of them, by the way, Marco. And I think that traveling, changing country, challenging myself, leading a company, these are all things that have allowed me to essentially get in touch with truly special people, and that really evolved me professionally, for sure, but also as a person, by just being around them and learning from them. I always say that being at Sysdig and working with my team at Sysdig, they are all so much more talented than me, and to me is really like every day is like I'm doing an MBA for free. People go to Stanford and pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to do an MBA and learn this kind of stuff, and I'm just sitting there, these guys that are really bright and really talented, and I'm learning, absorbing every day. I'm becoming better every day, and that's just the Sysdig side. But in a general way, I was very lucky to get people that really allowed me, I think, to evolve a lot as a professional and as a person.
And yet, I still see the same passion. I still see you on Saturday night, while drinking a little glass of wine, you're writing code, because that's where you want to go back to. So I think that that definitely that passion of creating from the roots, I think, is being the common denominator all throughout, and hasn't changed a bit.
I will do it the day I die. Again, for the 45th time, I'm going back to sports, but you don't become a Serie A soccer player if you just commit to be a good player. You become a professional soccer player, or you become a professional cross-country skier because you cannot live without it. It's your passion. It's what you want to do. It's not a job. It's when you want to do something, you do that. Some people just are born like that, and those are the people that can accomplish more, because for them it's not something that is forced. It's not a job, and that to me, is
a privilege.
Writing software, creating software products is that for me, and I'm so lucky, because from that point of view, I have never worked. It's like maybe a trivial sentence, but it's true. I never worked a day in my life. At least when I can do that, when can I do that part of my job, and it really comes natural, because you've done it for so long and with so much passion.
Awesome. I wanna start a chapter of what now. So where do we go from here? And considering it's already 15 minutes of these nice chat, we probably need to be a little on the short side. But I think that's where that's probably the most serious part of our conversation. That I want to touch upon the potential consequences. Is how do you see also your responsibility at this moment? So maybe let's start from more from your perspective. You still have you're young and younger inside, so you have at least a good 30, 40 years of active professional activities in front of you. How do you want to spend it? Writing software, I assume.
Well, it's too hard to answer the question. I think that I like challenges, and yes, I like popping up my Visual Studio Code and writing software. So I think a little bit like in art, there's the pleasure of the creation, but there's also the pleasure of performing, of exposing what you do to other people, and this stuff being liked and appreciated by other people. So I think that in the future, what I do will have a mix of the two. You know, I like creating. I like still playing with hard technical problems that are in my domain, and I think I will keep doing that until I die. But I also like doing this for other people, not just for me. So I like the community side of that. That's why I like open source. And so we'll see. But probably if I have to see myself happy, 10 years from now, it will probably be a combination of these two things.
The second question that I have on those topic is, how wealth or success can change you, can change everybody. And I think I wanted to go back into your roots, and because I think that, again, when we were mentioning at the beginning, you are a product of your roots. And so I was wondering if you thought about it, how to stay down to earth, how can you stay rooted now that wealth and success as the potential to change you. And was reading the old good friend Montemarco Montemagno today. He had a quote, I think from Whitney Houston, of all the philosophers out there, that mentioned it, that it's not wealth, it's not money, it's not success, but fame is the one that changes you. Do you feel that way?
I don't know. I don't think I'm successful enough. If I have,
yeah, that's actually very interesting. Those are the some of the fame, the first fame that you experience in the first exit, right? That is nothing comparable, obviously, to what you're experiencing today. But do you think that the fame is really a potential driver for change as a person?
I think it's impossible to generalize, so I can only speak for myself, And to be honest with you, what to me, the most life-changing thing, side of experiencing, let's say, a certain amount of wealth is freedom. People think that you make money and that lets you buy stuff, and that's true, And I'm not saying that's not nice or not important, but I feel like what especially the first exit really gave me was the freedom to say, okay, I for example, Sysdig, I just for the first 2 or 3 years of the company, we were small, we were not generating revenue. I did not give myself a salary. That is a huge freedom. That is a huge privilege to be able to work on something that is you can be passionate about and can create an opportunity, potentially as big as Sysdig for you, without the immediate need of bringing, like food on the table for you and your family. That, to me, personally, is the way that let's say success in a monetary form really brought me. Essentially, the freedom to really in my life take my choices without limitations and follow my objectives and my dreams without having to worry about that. Everything else I don't know. To me, it's not as important. But again, it's personal, you know.
Absolutely, and I wanted to leave the sentence that of 10 years ago of what brought you the first exit, because I think is important to essentially what you're saying now. In fact, to be true to yourself. This question is actually probably would require a much longer answer, but I try to generalize in the now that wealth and success is short term is has probably never been a driver, but even more so. And looking back at what are people's responsibility as a technologist, as one of the leaders of technologies, what do you think is the role of technology today in the larger scheme of things, right? In the impact of the economy in particular, democracy as well. But let's talk about maybe just the economy to start with.
Massive. I mean, it's so big. Again, this would require a much longer discussion, but economic wise, I mean, let's not even talk about the social implications and what like pervasive sharing everything means in the long term, and social media and all of this kind of stuff. But even just let's focus on the economic slash social implication of software. When we're saying software is changing the world, I mean, people don't realize how dramatic this is, and this will be in the future. We are in an economy in which it's easy, like for populist leaders to blame the next poorer person because you lost your job, Well, in practice, the majority of the jobs that are lost because software or machines, are doing them now. And with the rise of machine learning and artificial intelligence, this is going to be so amplified in the next 10, 20, 30 years that the world will be unrecognizable. Mark my words, we're just at the very beginning of this revolution. And this has profound implications that our society is not equipped not only to deal with, but to even understand. Because as I was saying, people don't realize even where their jobs are going, and they think that it's the immigration fault or something else,
Yeah.
While in practice, it's technologies that is doing something completely correct, because technology replaces jobs that are not worth doing for a human, But where is the limit here?
Mm.
When a thinking computer appears, which were very close. What is worth doing for a human or not, And again, we can talk forever about this.
Yes, we can go very philosophical, and I think it's definitely worth another potential chat. Let's get closer to our world, and your role in particular. I mean, again, do you feel there are probably thousands of folks in Italy in particular, but not only, they're now looking up at you as a role model, as somebody to follow. So
I'm sorry for them.
No, I think it's a great moment to be living, honestly, to have by the way, two unicorns funded by super strong Italian founders all together. So the other one is Kong, obviously, just a few months ago. But do you feel now? Are you aware? How do you feel that potential role of being really a role model that people and generation can look up to?
It's a privilege and a responsibility. I don't know, I don't know if I'm equipped, for such a responsibility. But clearly, like when we announced around, people commented on social media, on LinkedIn, and the messages that really strike me always are like the kids that are like, maybe this is inspiring me to start my own company, or somebody that is like, I know Loris because I read about him on a book, and that's why I took this step in my career, or I took this bet in my career. And it's like in the end, the meaning of what I do as a person is really expressed very well, by those messages, and they're the ones that are like, they make my day, and they make my life, not my day. It's also a big responsibility, and I don't know. I don't know exactly how to answer and approach that, very humbling.
Yeah, and keeping yourself, and I think that's what really makes you such a unique person in that role. So there's also the role of unicorns as an expression of a wealth of an economy of technology creators. I'm just back from a country like North Korea, which is South Korea, where one of the constant KPIs are really governments for the last 10 years has been the number of unicorns they are able to generate. And so that also gives you, a role in the driver of the economy that goes even beyond just you being an entrepreneur. So just putting it out there so that you feel more relaxed.
I mean, my comment to that is Sysdig is a Silicon Valley company, headquartered in San Francisco. The number of employees that we have in Italy, our country, went from 42 to 75 this year, in the COVID year. If I could, in fact, it's very important. We are hiring. Please, go to sysdig.com/jobs. If I could, I would have more than 100 people working for us in Italy. We are raising millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in Silicon Valley to pay salaries for skilled people in Italy that use that money to go to the baker and buy bread, So it is so rewarding, the fact that indirectly, me sitting here in Davis, I can have an impact on the baker in Italy. And that is why innovation is important. Unicorns are important. We can create good jobs. That's why the t-shirt job creator. We can create good jobs at an accelerated rate, at a non-linear rate, in a way that can really make a difference for an economy. The problem is you need much more than one. You need much more than 10 Sysdigs. You need hundreds of them for the economy to really feel the effect. But if you do and if you invest in the right way, it can really be it can make a difference.
It's definitely a game changer. All right, my friend, I think we're done what we had to do, and it's great to go back into the initial motto of job creators as entrepreneurs. Okay, here's how I want to leave it, considering that we're already past the hour of conversation. I just wanted to have...
Sorry, my pitch was too long.
Yeah, no, it's great. 1 minute of question and answer. I just want to get a very quick answers on who you are. And the idea is to get you more as a person. Are you ready for that?
Ready.
Okay, great. Okay. Favorite meal to cook?
Too many. Polenta.
I knew it. Favorite rock band?
Early Pink Floyd.
Early Pink Floyd. Favorite things to do with your kids?
You know this one. Ski. Well, everything that puts together mountains and snow. Let's put it that way.
Favorite drink?
Any Piemontese red wine.
Barbera. Favorite movie?
Big Lebowski.
Favorite book?
Cesare Pavese, La Luna e Falò. There's a little bit of correspondence to my story.
Favorite quote?
Well, I cited in my article recently the one from Harry Ford. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. We can also do the Star Wars version, the Yoda version. Do or do not, there is no try, right?
Here we go. That is a good one. Favorite politician?
I would say the good old Obama.
Favorite CEO?
Suresh Vaduvesan from Sysdig.
Obviously. Juventus or Torino?
I don't really do a lot of soccer cheering. When I was a kid, I was Juventus.
Alberto Tomba, Paolo Rossi?
Without doubt, Marta Bassino or Stefania Belmondo.
Okay. Beatles or Rolling Stones?
The Rolling Stones. No question. Much more rock and roll.
Ferrari or Subaru?
Both.
Oh,
Way
come
too
on.
expensive for me, but Subaru for sure. I mean, I love. I should say Ferrari because it's Italian, but
No, I know that you're not Ferrari.
I cannot treat well a Ferrari. So Subaru.
Ethereum or Bitcoin?
I don't gamble, so I don't know.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, Loris Degioanni. Cheers.
Grazie.
Thank you, Loris.
Thank
It's been
you.
a pleasure. Keep up.
My pleasure.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.